Yo, I'm Matt.
And I'm Joel. And we're FringeCraft. Today we're going to be watching a video from the Canadian broadcasting company called Facial Recognition Technology Can Identify Your Sexuality. This video is a bit of a novelty story about artificial intelligence looking at your face and determining if you're gay or straight. The reason we're covering this isn't really about the gaydar technology per se, but just to show off a little bit about how AI super perception and pattern recognition can achieve some pretty superhuman feats. And I think most people are familiar with the concept of the gaydar, and the fact that it can be, turned into technology might be a bit surprising to some people.
And to add to that, this is only one of the traits that this has. This is just what's being highlighted. So it can find multiple traits just by looking at you. This is what they chose to highlight. So if you want to appreciate what the CBC chose to highlight, go and like and subscribe to them. Otherwise, subscribe to us, like this video if you like this kind of content, and let us know what you think about what these AIs are now able to point out about people. But other than that, let's get into the video.
Can you tell who's gay and who's not?
Of course.
Do some research. Find out if there's a way to tell by just looking at them.
Jim told me you could buy gaydar online.
What are you doing?
Shh. Don't be scared. It works.
It's so ridiculous. Studies, though, have shown that humans can tell gay from straight from appearance alone. But despite what you see in that clip from The Office, there has never been a real gaydar device until now.
I just want to point out, and this is something that Joel pointed out, is they're making it like into this quirky, zany story that is not threatening. And so you look at this and like, oh, that AI is cool or, useful or whatever. But it would be a lot more threatening if it was like an AI that was like discovering whether, or like telling whether you were going to commit a crime, supposedly, like Minority Report. Or
deciding if you're worthy of a bank loan by looking at your face or something like that.
Exactly. Or giving you a social credit score, like what's happening in China. Like, there's a number of things that are pretty terrifying that are coming out of facial recognition software. And this is like maybe the zaniest, silly story that they could have covered.
And we're presenting some worst case scenarios just so you guys can have an idea what's out there, but
yeah. There's maybe some useful things that AI could help us with.
All right, let's see how this gaydar works.
This might not be the most useful. All right.
Researchers from Stanford University have developed an algorithm which they claim can tell gay from straight from photos alone. It's all based on facial recognition technology. That technology scans your face, looking for unique physical traits like the size of forehead or the distance from your eye to ear, then creates a geometric map of your face and compares it to a database of thousands of other people. The Stanford researchers say their algorithm gets it right 81% of the time for men and 71% for women. All of this raises questions about how the new face recognition technology will influence privacy and sexual identity in a brave new AI world. And joining us is Professor Nick Rule. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you've been studying
looks
gaydar
really
for a
young to
long
be a
time.
professor.
There seems to be more support. It's actually a thing.
That's true, yeah. In the last 15 years, my lab has been showing that people can accurately tell whether someone is gay or straight just from looking at a photo of their face.
Wow. And so this new study, can you describe how it works using AI, artificial intelligence?
Essentially, what the authors of this work did was to take photos of people from online dating advertisements and feed them into a computer algorithm that it then taught to tell whether someone was gay or straight. Based on that, they found that when they tested the algorithm without showing it any images, that it could still accurately tell it about 81%.
Well, this is something that they used. The computer was asked to say which of these which man is gay and which man is straight. How would that actually work? And what do you think of how it was done?
Right. Aside from some of the obvious differences with the facial hair there, the straight man has a wider face, and this isn't surprising at all. Straight men would generally have higher levels of testosterone, which during adolescence would cause their faces to actually become wider when their bones are growing.
So if there are actual physical differences that can be identified, does that support the idea that we've been hearing about, arguing about forever, that there's a gay gene?
Well, a gay gene, I'm not so sure, but the evidence in favor of there being a biological basis for sexual orientation is incontrovertible at this point.
These are all from a dating site. That's how they got the faces, thousands of faces. Is there something particular about a dating site? Does that worry you in any way? It is just faces from a dating site.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, photos that we post on dating sites aren't necessarily how we represent ourselves every day in the world, right? We take a lot of time to think about how we want to look on a dating website. We want to look attractive, of course, and that can definitely change the photo that someone chooses. That said, at the same time, research out of my lab has shown that it doesn't matter whether we use a Facebook photo, if we use a photo that we took in the laboratory, or if we take a photo from someone's high school yearbook even. The rates of accuracy for telling whether someone is gay or straight are pretty much the same.
There's been a lot of, in history, phrenology, there's been all assumptions made about people's bone structure or whatever. There's dangers here, are there not?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people can go a little overboard with misinterpreting the information that you get from someone's face. That said, there are kernels of truth at the same time as well.
You're a gay man. You've done all of this research. Are you concerned how bad actors, say, the country of Uganda, which kills gay men, how this could possibly be misused?
Definitely. I mean, I think to some extent, a government like Uganda or, Chechnya could take this information and automate, sort of identifying gay people and rounding them up and incarcerating them. And I think that's a concern that, we should all have. But at the same time, that it's not necessarily a concern of the technology as much as the people who use it.
So was this study good, or is it a good thing that it's out?
I think in a way it is. I think it helps to agitate some of the policy discussions around the protections that we need for social categories like sexual orientation. When you look at a lot of the rhetoric that comes out of some politicians' mouths in other places outside of Canada, you hear this argument that people, they don't need to be protected in terms of their sexual orientation because no one knows whether they're gay or straight until they say so.
One thing that I find interesting is it's basically 4 out of 5 is the probability that it gets it correct, which he's saying, like, imagine Uganda or some other nation state uses this to round up like gay men or gay women. Specifically gay men because of the probability of 4 out of 5, but even less so for women that it gets it correct. It's like, well, what about the 1 out of the 5? So they pick up 5 guys. One of those guys might not actually be gay, so it's still not perfectly correct. At least this was in 2018. And so, and it is pretty terrifying what he's saying, like the use of AIs in ways that, aid countries in committing atrocities would be pretty, terrible use of power. And again, it's like, even then, it's not always going to be correct. And so, like, you're being labeled by a machine that you don't have the, I guess, you're not going to be able to explain to it that that's not true. It's just basing it off of these.
You just got to grow a beard out. That's the only way to.
Yeah. Grow a beard, kind of fatten your face up, and you'll be all right, is kind of seemingly what this is, if this comes to this. Anyway, that's a joke, but I mean, it's like it becoming more of a serious problem when, countries like China are actually using facial recognition software to track where you go and affect your social credit score.
Yeah, and you remember I showed you that video about the AI cloaking shirt you can wear?
The one that, like almost, like, covers, yeah. Yeah, I do.
We'll probably have technology like that, for, dissidents in the future who you got to blend in with your face. Maybe you got a weird tattoo on your neck to trick the AI. Who knows?
Well, it might also be like, all right, as soon as you start wearing that kind of technology, you're marking yourself as someone who doesn't want to be tracked because, like, the average person isn't going to be wearing that. So if you're wearing that, you're going to be like you would have to get enough of the population to wear something like that in order to not completely stick
Yeah.
out like a sore thumb anyway.
I mean, there's a lot of trouble for dissidents in the future, basically, is what this video is getting at.
Yeah.
And he uses gay people in Uganda, but I mean, there's dissidents in every country, in every nation.
Yeah. So, okay, let's continue this. It's probably almost over.
I mean,
Yes.
these data suggest otherwise, and it supports a lot of what my lab has been showing for a long time now.
A lot to watch for there. Thank you so much, Nick.
My pleasure.
Professor Nick Rule.
All right. Well, that was a really interesting topic, and I think it highlights like some of the dangers. Well, again, it's more of a novelty thing. When AI starts judging people almost like, arbitrarily based off physical
Based off of
characteristics.
its judgment.
Yeah. That's getting to a dangerous point with technology. And in my belief, I think AI is there are AIs that are already making judgments on people, even in free countries like America, that are affecting people's lives when they don't know it. But it's going to take years to get to the point where we understand what's going on and that it's not happening, just on some server somewhere that we don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, if ever, like, there's secret AIs being used now. Can I prove it to you? Maybe even, actually, but we'll go over some more stuff on how AI, judges people and determines outcomes based on its judgment of people in the future. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video, found it informative, and hopefully it wasn't too spooky and you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like this video if you enjoy this kind of content, and subscribe. All right, well, I've been Matt.
And I'm Joel,
And we're FringeCraft.
See you
Later,
guys.
guys.